Welcome back to Story Hustler. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Mike.
Like and subscribe. We wanted to do a week one recap of the trial and honestly just kind of give some analysis heading into week two.
Really interesting week.
Yeah, very interesting. We've gone through about 10 witnesses. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
in the middle of the 10th witness, their testimony, and it has been fascinating just getting the background of the FLDS in general and then really diving into Sam and just how depraved his group, he and his followers, kind of got in their short time period.
right.
It's been wild.
Yeah, and thus far, there. What we you said we've got 10 witnesses.
Yeah.
Uh, 8 of them have been women. There have
Hmm.
only been 2 men. One was a cop from Colorado City, and I think we'll talk about sort of the whole law enforcement end of this. But uh, the other ones have been women, and one young boy who is the son of Liddell. And basically, the women and this one young man have really been the insiders,
Hmm.
telling the stories of what happened inside, and they have all been. This has been as interesting a week of testimony. Every one of these witnesses, you sit through a long trial, they're sort of up and down. Some are more. These have been, I think, mesmerizing
Yeah.
because you have women uh, who are always the best narrators and the of this story and telling this from the inside, and it has been so powerful.
Yeah. And I feel like the men and the women have very different roles in this history, in this
There's
story,
no
in
doubt
this
about it.
religion, to say the least, honestly. But just
Yeah,
in like also their role in the crimes overall, especially like that Sam committed. Like, I don't know, it was just fascinating to hear, the people that we thought were probably his right hand and some of the most forceful of the adults in the group.
right.
I don't know, I'm hearing her testimony and it's
Naomi,
Naomi Beislein.
who is on the stand when we left on
Yeah,
Friday, and we'll pick up again tomorrow morning.
it's just been very eye-opening to the kind of mindset that these girls are just groomed. I mean, they're groomed from young
Oh,
ages in this religion to be this submissive wife, this submissive mother.
and we
Just
continue to draw the parallel between the Handmaid's Tale, and it really is not that far a big of a leap.
they get called by the women get called by like their first name and then whatever husband they have like the last name, or it's so strange, but the handmaid still has a very similar concept, like
You
whatever.
noted that when the evidence,
Yeah.
and Sam and his family had these code names and what the women referred to, and they
And
were
it was like
based
their husband's name was like their name that they were referred to, and how they were differentiated because there's so many different people with the same name in these families and in the FLDS. But yeah, in the Handmaid's Tale, they have the commander's name as their name. They don't get their own identity, and
yeah.
that's very similar to women in this community. They don't get their own identity.
And the prosecutors have done a very good job. They have clearly the upper hand. They have the only hand
Yeah.
in the deck. The defense teams have nothing to work with, and
And
haven't and
the
not really doing a
prosecutor,
heck of a lot with it.
yeah, no, and the prosecutors have already, like I continue to say, dismantled his defense's opening statement that he
Which
just
he,
didn't know Sam, wasn't around Sam, didn't hang out with Sam, didn't know any of this was going on.
and
And no, we have video evidence now from
well,
Christine
and
Marie that Torrance was in the car a lot with Sam or in the religious meetings with Sam. Or,
right, yeah, and so just to give you some flow with it that we have heard from as the prosecutors, they've talked to women who have gotten out,
mhm.
children of these guys who have talked how crazy their fathers got with Liddell Beislein, young women, young adult, young women in their 20s, children as young as the age of 9. Forced into marriages with these guys, with Sam Bateman, being sexually abused. Talked to about the children of Liddell Beislein coming in and saying how he forced us into marriage.
And not
He,
even just his children, but the people that he then took care of, which is part of the history that we
so,
wanted to get into of the FLDS,
yeah, yeah,
which is just
uh,
kind of
yeah. They have
blinding.
there have been extraordinary witnesses. Again, it really is. It's this brave, courageous women, from a teenage girl talking about being given to Sam at the age of 9, one of Sam's initial victims. That was heart-wrenching. Yeah, and the thing that has impressed me, and I think we've talked about this with all of these witnesses, is they're one of them's a teenager who was raped at 9. One of their young women, their older women who have just been sort of browbeaten by this system, first with under Warren and now with Sam, and telling their stories, and all of them speak with sort of a maturity.
They're
uh,
so thoughtful.
so
They're so thoughtful with their
every
answers.
one of them.
The prosecutor or the defense will ask a question, and there's just a noticeable pause in almost every single answer of every single
With all of
witness.
these women,
They really just sit there and they think about what was asked, and they really try to come up with anything they can think of throughout the entire. I mean, they have to span 3 years also of trying to
the memory and
think of
everything.
things. But yeah, very thoughtful.
They have been such impressive witnesses, and again, good on the prosecutors. I think they
Yeah.
got an easy case, but they're laying it out very effectively. Again, getting the perspective of how these guys sort of went crazy, and this, in essence, 3.5 year
Yeah.
just sort of perverted sexual crime spree that Sam launched himself on, supported by Liddell
Yeah.
and Torrance,
Yeah.
and a guy that, and we're now getting acquainted with a great many people sort of personally involved in this story, and a guy that they always bring him up more often, point at him more. They want us to talk more about Moroni Johnson, a wicked bastard, every bit as bad as Sam, and he's not in this trial, but his shadow hangs over it, and in many ways, he sort of started the blueprint of leaving the theology of the FLDS, branching out into saying, I'm going to go out and start having some other wives. And it's the same sort of off ramp that he said, to get him sex and young women when all the FLDS were saying they can't do that.
Yeah.
And Sam, in essence, followed Moroni and then took over his harem and took over his life. But the bottom line is these two guys, they're the instruments. Moroni and Liddell
They seem to be.
and Sam. And then Torrance sort of tagged along just because he was.
And then he became the financial.
Oh yeah, he was the money man.
Yeah.
He was the money broker, the bag man who was making all the money and buying Sam his Bentleys.
But honestly, Moroni and Sam are on the back of Warren Jeffs, which is what we wanted to get into a little bit. And obviously, they're different trials, they're different crimes, but they're all connected, all under the same umbrella. Without Warren, you don't have Sam, and vice versa.
We've said this often. You can't tell this story very effectively in the moment if you don't know the history.
No. So,
and this trial really points up some fascinating history, and we've discussed this a great deal in sort of preparing for this, and learning so much from this trial and connecting the dots. But it's our belief that Sam Bateman the stage was set, the seeds were sown for a guy like Sam Bateman
to pop up
because of the actions of Warren Jeffs.
Yes.
And there are two main points in history or things that Warren did that I think sort of made Sam inevitable.
Yeah. So we've talked about it in the past. If you want to go back into some of our previous episodes, we kind of do a deeper dive into Warren. But basically, when Warren went to prison, so long ago, it feels like over a decade
18
ago.
Well, he's now 18 years since he got busted. So
he basically put a kibosh on marital relations, so sex, and having children. So for a community that you need new kids and a new generation to continue this religion, this community, it's not going to work if you're not repopulating your community.
And I think people don't realize he literally, because he wasn't getting any in his prison cell in Texas, many years ago, he just said nobody else is.
Yeah.
And he meant that. No marital relations, no marriages, no babies, no nothing. And even men were not supposed to live under the same roof, sleep under the same roof as their families.
Yeah.
So that the moratorium on sex was sort of the second thing. The thing that really, I think, made this all happen, and it's been the hallmark the most
The
malicious,
darkest chapter.
and aside from just the act of raping children, I think the most insidious thing that Warren has done, which is Cult 101, is he basically, when he came on board, started crushing any sort of the sense of the nuclear family
Yeah.
in the polygamous context.
He
And
would just send parents away. Like
it
moms,
started,
dad, he would just send you away. If he didn't like what you did, even if there was absolutely no reason to send you away, he would send a father
and he used
away.
his stupid
Yeah.
lug thug brother
His right
Lyle
hands.
to do the dirty work.
And
But
he would just send them away, and then he would give these families to other followers.
and
So
this is a long history, and I think for those of us who have followed Warren for many years, it was one of the early signs that this guy's going to go nuts.
yeah.
And it started when he had 20 men at the Saturday work meeting, and he said, "You guys are all out of here."
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens in the FLDS, a guy get these 20 men in that early days got exiled. That means, gentlemen, you leave town. Don't even say goodbye to your families. Families don't ever have another
Don't talk
common
to him.
communication with this guy. And you guys go and grovel for, it was repent from afar, but basically it meant grovel from afar.
And we'll see how we
And
feel.
if eventually Warren needs your money or you have some more girls, he may let you back in.
Yeah.
And this has happened to now hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of families. So over the last 25 years of just crushing the families, there is no real family structure, which serves Warren very well, because Cult 101 is separate people from their family because it's easy
Yeah.
to move them around. And as a result, and now you have multiple generations where a guy gets excommunicated, his 3 wives and his 28 children get given to another man. That guy then gets excommunicated, and his 3 wives and the new 3 wives and now the 56 children are given to and this has been going on for 25 years. And the
Yeah.
most sycophantic men who have continued to kiss Warren's ass, like Liddell, they've now cobbled together all kinds of large herds of families and women, and those are the people that Sam went after.
Yes. But let me just get a little word in there in
Please,
your
yeah,
long-winded rant, which is
history.
totally great. But also, they've also been taught that your children aren't your children.
Well,
So
that's the
then,
bottom.
I mean,
The prophets.
you destroy the parents and you destroy the nuclear family, and then the parents are brainwashed even more of the mindset that, like, well, these aren't my kids. These kids belong to the prophet,
Exactly.
the religion. Like, they're not mine. They're for him to do what he wants to do with them.
And that's what we've been indicating. That's what we've been treating these women and children as, the prophet's property.
Their property. And yeah, like we brought up, Liddell was one of these caretakees, as they have referenced them.
Caretaker who took in a lot of caretakers.
Yeah, caretakers who took in a lot of caretakees. And
beyond his wives, beyond his family,
it was
he was really in charge of,
him.
about 30, it seemed like about 20, 30 people that were sort of, that Liddell was the father figure. And it's just because he hadn't run crosswise with Warren, so he's sort of, he hadn't been thrown out.
Yeah.
And this Moroni Johnson, who also just a nefarious bastard, he's the one who really, before Sam, he apparently sort of got it in his head, after these years of not having sex. I mean, these tension, clearly there were tensions. People wanted to, and even the women.
Married couples couldn't have sex. So you have people that have been together for 20 years and they're not allowed to have any sort of marital relationships
because of this Warren's edict. And he's crazy.
And Moroni and Sam, Moroni specifically, saw this niche little want of the community to have kids and have marital relations.
So
and
he
get
started
married.
messing with the theology.
And he said, you know what? It's not just the prophet that can receive revelations.
Sammy took it there. Moroni first went.
But he started saying that too. Like, your relationship with God is very personal.
Right.
Like, it's, you and him, and God can tell you what he wants. He doesn't need to go through
which
the
is
prophet.
like heresy in the FLDS.
Yeah.
They should believe in one man, one rule, speaks for God. And these two guys, and Moroni started going up and trolling Canada because he wanted to pick up Warren Jeff's wives
Yeah.
And that's how it really started. Sammy started following him up to Canada. That's when
Warren
he got,
Jeff's wives are highly sought after
yeah,
because
and the,
basically you get a piece of the profit, is how
you know,
these men view it.
and after Warren was put in jail, a number of them went up. And Moroni actually went up and got one of the Jeff's wives to go back with him, and that sort of set it in motion.
Yeah.
And the FLDS community, I think, all knew about
Yeah.
this. And then Sam is asking
But
his,
that seemed to be a source of pain for Sam, that Moroni was able to get the
oh,
Warren Jeff's not ex-wives, but former
these
wives.
guys are playing. These
They're
are the
just
high school.
jealous. They're
These
just
are high
jealous.
school boys, perverted high
This
school
is
boys.
childish games, and they're just abusing kids for their
There you
childish,
go.
perverted games.
Yeah. So anyhow, but it really is. Sammy, I don't think that the stage was set because Warren has so dismantled families, and you now have these large, like herds of children and women being led by some knucklehead like Liddell, and on these fringe edges of the community. Warren's been incarcerated for 18 years, and guys like Sam are going to pervs like Sam who want power, money, and sex are going to come along and take advantage. And that's what he exactly what he did, and started tweaking the theology with Moroni, saying, "Oh well, I can have my own revelation." And the devious bastard even got one of his youngest brides to sort of bear some testimony for him,
Yeah.
so he could sort of use her as a salesman. You know, the trial is crazy. We're learning a lot about history, and the people that we've come to get to know, I'm hoping they'll continue to communicate with us, because we're still learning some of this history
Absolutely.
ourselves.
We do not know everything, and we've spoken on things in the past with information that we had in the past that may not like stand true today. Like I said, we've
We're
had these
learning.
ideas of the wives and their roles in these things, and I feel like we're learning so much
Oh,
more
so
about
much.
just the pressure that almost every single woman that Sam took faced
Yeah.
from other people. There was only like a couple women that actually went to Sam willingly. None of the underage girls obviously wanted to
None.
go.
And
And some of the adult wives even were like, no, I just gave in because I didn't want to be pressured anymore.
and bear in mind,
So,
there was never an equal power
no,
structure.
it was
Even
never,
the
yeah.
women never had standing in this thing, and these
No.
guys have abused and
This was not a consensual relationship by any means.
and none of them ever, none of them ever are.
No, because women don't have power in that community, and
That's become so crystal clear from hearing from these. But you know what? All of these women have claimed their power.
they've taken it back. Yes,
it's
very empowering.
Their community didn't give it to them, but on the witness stand, every one of them, and I'm not just saying this. These have been such powerful moments in a courtroom, and I've sat through thousands of hours like this. Every one of them has really been remarkable.
Yeah, yeah. No, it definitely teaches you a lot about people and nature versus nurture. Honestly, I feel like so many things come down to that.
Yeah.
Big question, nature versus nurture.
Well, and you see
see nature and nurture competing,
yeah,
with this odd environment that these people all grew up in, and it's just very fascinating. And that, I don't know, that was our week one.
Yeah, and it's we're looking forward, and I don't. Can you say you're looking forward to this after hearing?
No, I'm not
raping children, but
we're
here. We're here. We're going to see it through. And it just, I've been talking to Don. We're going to wrap this up, but this is something that story has been with me and with us for more than 2.5 years. And I didn't ask to sort of get involved in this. Sam Bateman insisted on a meeting with me, and he didn't pull me out of a phone book. He picked me because of my history with this story. And this guy shows up with at the park, and I immediately see the optics, and I know he's a criminal. I know he's a sex abuser, and I know all of these women and children are being victimized by this guy. I knew that in that moment. And for the people that I'm now coming, that we had a young woman come up to us in court the other day and said, "I'm in your picture." And I hope we can establish and get some sort of relationship, because I want you to know, when I was looking in your faces in that park, I knew what was going on. And I was furious that this guy was using me as a prop and you as a prop to make himself look like a big man. And immediately after that meeting, I took my information to the FBI and every law enforcement agency that I could, and I repeated calls to them over the next few months, expecting and having some faith.
Hoping that they did their jobs to just follow up with some evidence that
And
someone might have, and not just anybody, but a person who has tracked this, who was given an
and,
FBI reward for this, not just a stranger, but someone who has a history with
well, and
this.
but it's just, take me out of the equation. There was a lot of people dropping the dime on this guy.
And they
And it is
just
my
didn't
feeling,
care.
having now sat in the court, that there was never a sense of urgency on
No.
the part of law enforcement. It makes me very sad to say that. And it makes me sad because I think I should have been much more aggressive and much more proactive in the immediate aftermath of our meeting. And I should have, gone out and dragged Sam into the light of day and exposed him. And I'm sorry that I didn't. And from the time I had my meeting until the long 8 months until he got pulled over because of a civilian. There was 8 months, and there wasn't a day that went by when I was thinking, why haven't they stopped this guy? And I just want to say, I'm sorry to the people in that photograph that I wasn't more aggressive to push this issue than I was. And I will regret that till the day I die.
Yeah, we had faith in law enforcement.
And it was and I should have, I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. In this story, they never seem to get it right, and I think that the suffering went on way past as the length it should have, with all the people that were dropping the dime. And to the extent I missed an opportunity to stop that, I am so damn sorry.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's where we should end this episode, but that was week one recap, and a sincere apology for.
But for whatever, it's an old man
Yeah.
being ranting, but it's just, what, that was wrong. And it was wrong for anybody who saw that. And it's not because I'm so smart. It was right there, and law enforcement should have picked up on this at the local and the federal level a hell of a lot sooner.
Yep.
And with much more urgency than they did.
Absolutely. But here we are, and hopefully this
Round two, week two.
serves some justice for these victims.
Yeah.
But we'll see in the next coming week. So yeah, week 2 is coming up, and we'll keep you guys posted throughout the week, hopefully on updates. So signing off, everyone. Good night.
Good night.